welcome again, and hello to everyone who has not been here yet. We are going to continue now with our workshop stage and how to probably not get the shitty pitch, but to do a very, very perfect, awesome pitch. So who of you has been pitching lately? Or just last year? It's a push, okay. Who has never has done a pitch? Never ever. Ah, so you will get some special training. Probably pitch some other things. So we got very much the experts in town here who will present to you right now how to pitch really and how to do it in a perfect way. And they brought examples that you will probably never get out of your head again because they are quite funny, and you will probably get the common mistakes and you should not do them as well. So I'm talking about Magdalena Reith and Felix Homburg from Unicorn Pitch. And yes, Unicorn, we're in the startup world, so you better be ready to tell your story to them later on, or in the workshop. I'm not taking it here. So please give them a very warm welcome, and let's have it kick off.
So first of all, a very warm welcome from our side as well. We're delighted to be here, and we're very happy to see so many faces in our slot. So thanks a lot for coming here and giving us your attention. So before we actually want to start, I think it makes sense if we introduce ourselves. So my name is Magdalena, as we just heard. I'm from Munich. I did my bachelor's at the LMU and then went to the startup Mecca itself, to Silicon Valley in California. And now I'm back to beautiful Munich, doing my master's at the TU with business and IT. And that's my colleague Felix.
Yeah, as you heard, my name is Felix, and I worked as in investor relations first, before working for Unicorn Pitch. And now for quite a time, we supported startup companies in their pitch and try to help them to find an awesome pitch deck.
Exactly, so that's also our mission. Let me see if I figure that out here. That was wrong. That's how it works, got it. So as we just said, we're from Unicorn Pitch. Our mission is to actually help startups to succeed in their investor pitches. We mostly work with pitch decks in this regard. And we see a lot of young founders, experienced founders come to us with all kinds of different pitch decks. And our mission is, and we did that with a lot of startups, as you can see, it's like more than 1,000 by now, that come to us and want our advice and how to perfectly design it, how to perfectly structure it. The first question that usually comes up is, why do we actually need a really cool pitch deck? Isn't it fine if I just have my main content on there summarized and everyone gets it? I mean, yeah, that's very important. But usually you don't realize what is all needed to make a perfect pitch deck and also a perfect pitch in the aftermath. So always see your pitch deck as your business card. That's what investors see, that's what you present with, and that's what you hand out to people to convince them. So always think you have a lot of analysis in the background, you know all the data, but nobody will look through a 30-page business plan. Maybe afterwards, but not in the beginning. And even if you usually spend hours and days and months on all of this data, but the investors, they will spend between 2 and 3 minutes on it, if you're lucky. So they see between 10 and 20 startup pitch decks a day, if you're unlucky, and if it doesn't look appealing and it doesn't have the right structure and information, you will land in the trash can super quickly, which you don't want, right? So you can have a super cool idea, but if you don't bring it across the right way, nobody's gonna ever pay attention to it. So it is really not only your business card, but also your entry ticket to potential investors, to talks, and to pitches, and it's your main asset to raise money in the end. So always keep that in mind. Many people come to us and they're like, ooh, I have a pitch deck or a pitch tomorrow, or in 2 days, or next week. I don't have a pitch deck. So you always should have that ready, because you never know when the occasion presents itself that you can actually pitch to someone. So don't do it on the last day, because it has to actually look really cool and has the right content. So this is Felix part now.
Yeah, Magdalena told you what not to do, and what we actually experienced pretty much every day in our work life is startups do it anyways, and they do all the things that are really important first, and they forget about the pitch decks. And then they get invited for a pitch, or they have to contact an investor, and then they contact us, but they are not ready yet at all. And what we often really experience with nowadays, startups are really technical, right? So you have a lot of technical applications and a lot of content, but is it really interesting for the investor? I mean, you know it, and he's probably interested about a few things, but content-wise, don't do too much content. Don't do too much information on one slide. Make it clear so that you don't exaggerate the content. Also, what we often experience, even especially if it's maybe technical companies, maybe some people who have no business background, that the important KPIs are missing, that there's no slide regarding the market, no financials, and this is really important. And if you miss that, that's probably the most important thing the investor is looking at. So make sure to include that. Also, sometimes we have no structure at all. So slides don't go from A to B to C to D. They go from A to Z to D to E. It's completely, there's no line guiding through. And this is really bad. Imagine if you have a presentation, you have no idea where you're actually standing at, what's actually the point of the presentation. You lose interest. This is really bad. And maybe one of the most important things, which gets forgotten quite a lot, is the layout and the design. Would you rather focus on something beautifully designed or on some boring pitch deck? You would probably rather look at something which is designed in a good way, where fonts are in line, the letters are the same. You don't want to miss that, and we can help you with that, and we get this quite a lot. So the design is really something you shouldn't forget about. And the design also supports the content. If you have you can have the perfect content, but if the design is bad, people will just forget about it. So what we are saying is that you want to make sure that the investor really knows what you want to tell him right away. You don't want him to spend the time looking for information. You want him to take away the information right away. And this is really what you should focus on.
Exactly, like what you're selling is your idea. So make sure that investors do not ever lose time in like trying to figure out the structure, trying to figure out how everything goes together, trying to find information that's somewhere hidden. So always make sure you have key messages worked out the right way. And just to be honest, like you can be the best business person, but who of us is a designer? So I would always recommend you have someone professionally do that.
Like us? No. We are helping startups every day with different aspects. So and we try. So we experience every stage of the startup process. We have startups who have started, so literally startups. We have startups who are already in the market, but you need a good pitch deck at every stage of your process. So we offer different solutions for different problems, and we get in touch with different kinds of startups. First thing we offer is content creation. This means we really build up a pitch deck from scratch, and we build a whole pitch deck with all the important information in it. Magdalena will later on talk a little bit about how a perfect pitch deck is structured in detail, but let me just say there's a lot to take care of, so you shouldn't miss that.
Don't miss it.
Another important thing we are dealing with is content consulting. Maybe you have already something in mind. Maybe you have quite a good approach to a topic, to your idea, but you just need some little help. Maybe you don't have the best business background, So we can help you with the KPIs I was talking about, and also with the design. As Magdalena said, no one of us, maybe some, but I'm not, are professional designers. So
he's also not going to do it. Just don't worry about it.
Lucky us.
we have the perfect designers back in our office who can help with design. So this is the third thing. We can also just do a design, and this is really important for a pitch deck to make it look good and to transfer the information in a good way. So let's get back to content. What should be actually included in a pitch deck? And first of all, our guideline is content is king. You don't want to exaggerate too much. You want to keep facts, fact-based. You want to present data. You want to show the investor what you got. You don't want to lie about it. You want to represent it in a good way, but you want to be honest. If you have a good idea, you don't need to lie about your idea. You just have to present the content in a good and factual way. Also keep it simple. As I said, especially with a very technical approach, it's really hard for some investors to understand. As I said, some startups don't have a business background. Some investors don't have a technical background. So always keep that in mind. Keep it simple, do the mom test. Call your mom and pitch your idea to your mom. If she isn't an engineer, and she understands it anyway, good.
And if you really want to be on the safe side, go for your grandma.
Also have your storyline ready. You should, as I said, you shouldn't go from A to Z. You should go from A, B, C, D. You should really make sure that everyone can follow your thoughts. As we said before, you know what you want to tell, but maybe the investor doesn't. And then you should make sure that you're all on the same page and that you can really follow your pitch. This is really important. Sometimes you hear pitch and you focus on the person, you take away something, but you actually forget what he's talking about, or you forget where you're standing right now. This shouldn't happen. Make it logical. And also use examples. It's always good to use pictures. If you're pitching, take your product with you. So if you have maybe a sensor, a technical thing, take it with you. Whatever it is, try to open that black box. At the beginning of a pitch, your product is a black box for the investor. And after the pitch, it shouldn't be anymore. So make sure to use everything you have. Testimonials are always a good thing. We use it quite a lot. If I create a pitch deck, I always like to do testimonials, because if the customer is satisfied or other people are satisfied with your product, it's always a good argument. So overall, if you have these 4 things in mind, you're already on a really good way.
I think what Felix just said, like, you cannot stress it enough. For example, the mom test, it really sounds stupid. I know, we just heard that sound like a grandma test, it's not even better. Just imagine you spend like months or years on your product. You know every detail on it. The investor has never ever heard about it. And now he has a couple minutes to figure out what it is, and if you want to put like 100,000 euros in it, or even more. Also, just imagine you're on the side of the investor. I think that's a very helpful thing to do. They want to be, of course, it's serious business, but you also rather look at something that's appealing, that you feel like if someone brings an example, you get an idea how it is. You want to like have fun learning about it. If you have like a Word document, Jesus, nobody likes that. Just always make sure, keep it interesting. Like never get to like have it be boring. Make sure you show your things, make sure you have everything organized. Like that's the framework, and it has to be like, that's not a plus or an add-on, that's the basic line everyone has to have in order to compete with others. Because others, they are professional. And if you want to keep up and make like your ideas stick out, you got to be at least on the same level with the framework. Regards.
Also makes the investor excited about your idea. You are probably really excited about your idea. Try to transfer that feeling to the investor.
By the way, big sorry that the slides are like kind of cut off. Just gotta deal with it now.
A good tactic is always to start a presentation with an elevator pitch. So imagine, I don't know, probably everyone knows what an elevator pitch is, but imagine you meet a really important investor in an elevator and you want to pitch him your idea right away. So you should always focus on these 3 questions. You will always try to answer these 3 questions, and this is also how you can start a longer pitch. Because as I said, your idea is a black box for the investor, but if you're pitching for 10, 20, maybe 30 minutes, I don't know, if he gives you this time, he's already interested, and you want to make sure that he knows what you are actually talking about. So first of all, what problem are you solving with your idea, and why are you solving it right now? So let's say there is a big problem. Why is it your idea that's solving it, and how are you doing it? Just keep it simple. Don't go too much in detail. Just use 30 seconds, maybe 2 sentences. Make clear what you want to talk about in the next time. And make sure that you can always answer these 3 questions regarding your idea and regarding your product. Because with that, you can always build up on. And it's actually something a lot of startups lacking to do. So try to make sure that you can always do this elevator pitch. And maybe, who knows, maybe you will meet an investor in an elevator someday and you can use it anyways.
Very important. I mean, the elevator pitch, I think every one of us heard it already. Everyone's like, oh God, not again. But I've recently been part of a pitch with a couple venture capitalists, and it was actually a 20-minute slot. So 20 minutes is a long time, right? Everyone has a lot of data prepared, a lot of like market analysis, financial plans. Use the first couple seconds, or maybe even a minute, to give your investor an idea what you're doing. So they even have already a context before you start with problem and solution. They're like, where is it heading to? They already know what's going on. So that's just like a little quick fix you can always use. And everybody, literally everyone who has a startup, has to be able to describe their idea within the 30 seconds or a minute. If you're not able to do that, you did not understand your own product. And trust me, we see people that struggle to speak for like an hour, and then they're like, oh, it's so hard to explain. I'm like, come on. So make sure, it's really hard. It sounds really easy, it's really hard. So just make sure, be able to do that with everyone. Yeah,
imagine sometimes we have a call with a customer, and we ask him, and like the first thing I ask if I have not the best idea about the product is always, can you explain the product to me? And some people are really good at it, and they explain in a few sentences exactly what they mean. But some people are going on and on, but I don't really get it. And I listen to them because I want to know and because I need to know. But an investor, he doesn't need to know. You want him to understand what you're talking about. So make this first 1 minute is maybe the most important one of the whole pitch.
Exactly, because that's when it gets boring or it gets exciting. So you want to get them on board, and just imagine, if you only spend like 100 euros, that's a lot for everyone, right? Just imagine what they spent on your idea. All right, the next slide is a rather full one, because now I would like to go very much in detail of how to structure a perfect pitch and what the individual components should look like. Very important, and I always say that up front, is there is not one perfect pitch. Please, 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 always keep in mind, it depends on where you do it and to whom you pitch. It's a huge difference. One of the first things we always ask is, are you actually presenting to someone? Do you have like 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Are you sending it per email? It really much depends on what context you use and what medium you use, and if your investor is probably like very industry specific, or he might be very far away from the topic. So always make sure, I mean, everyone should have one standard pitch deck, but make sure you don't use the same one with a lot of text in presentations. On the other hand around, if you like have a pitch deck that has no information at all, that is probably perfect for being on stage, and you send it over to someone, they won't understand it. So always keep in mind who you're talking to and how you're talking to them or sending it to them. Also, another very important point is, how far are you into your startup process already? It's a huge difference if you just started your idea 3 months ago, or you're already into development and spend like a year or 2 on it. If you're in the first couple weeks or months, nobody expects you to have a perfectly laid out financial plan. It's actually the contrary, because if you have every number count down to every month the next 5 years, I mean, great to have an estimate, but is it very believable? Like, I mean, everyone can like think of numbers, give estimates, but it always depends on what phase you're in. I think what I show you now is like most of us have already seen it. We usually start with a very, very catchy sentence and just make sure we have the right context. What is the company purpose? If you have a mission or a vision, that's awesome. Just use it right away. Give people like an easy way to get into your presentation. Don't start with the problem, because everyone's like, gonna be cool, but like once you give them the context, it's a lot easier to start looking through a presentation and follow it. Of course, in the end, it's a very classical approach, right? Problem, solution. I think it never harms, because show them where the pain point is of the customers right now. Show them why you want to do that. And then show them on a very high level, how are you doing that? This can even be on one slide sometimes. It really depends, and this is not like a fixed frame where you can just put on any pitch. It's just a guideline to stick to. A lot of like solutions should target why now. Why is now the perfect time to do it? I mean, if we look at Facebook or YouTube, it's not the first time ever someone did that, like, right? Still, why is it right in that time? They did it right. Just make sure if you have it, put it in there. Maybe you have a very good solution, why, or a very good answer to the question, why now? If you do, have it in there. If you don't, just leave it out. As I said, this is more like a puzzle, like a guideline, but you don't have to say every single point in there. The next one, that refers back to what Felix said before, important KPIs and numbers. Market. Market is probably one of the most important things an investor wants to know, even at the very beginning. Like, who's your market? How big is it? Like, what do you think I can potentially get out of it? We usually use very important numbers like the total available market. I don't know how many of you guys have heard it. You probably should know it. It depends on like how you want to put it in there, but total available market is very important. The serviceable addressable market is very important. And in a third round, what is the market share we think we can capture? So the first one basically means if the whole world would buy our product and it would be only us who offer it, which doesn't really always happen, right? How much would we make? The next step is, okay, we cannot reach the whole world right now. We probably are Germany based, or I don't know, wherever we're in Munich, we have a certain channels already worked out. We won't reach everyone in the world in like USA, Australia. How many people can we potentially and possible and realistically reach? Very important. And the third part is, well, you're still not the only one. So what do you think you can actually realistically capture, and how much do you have to give away to your competitors? Always make sure you have direct and indirect competitors in here as well, substitutes. I think everyone knows about the product, as we had before too with Felix. Show it. Show pictures, show screenshots, show prototypes. That's what people want to see. The more you get into practical view, the better. Business model. Everyone knows it too. What happens all the time is people are like, oh, I can make money from this, or maybe this. That could work too, and if all three fail, that's our backup. Don't do that. Have it in your brain, that's cool, but if you want to put it on your pitch deck or you put it somewhere, narrow it down to one or two important and your main revenue streams. You can always have the other one in mind, like you see how the whole thing develops, but don't go like 10 different ways. It's not going to work out. Also, it gives a sense of insecurity. Like if you're like, oh, this or this or this or this, maybe this. It's like, so do you actually believe in your own business model? That's what you don't want to have to happen, right? What we do really like to put in there is the traction slide. Especially if you're like a little further in there. It shows what you already reached, customers, we had testimonials before. If you have anything like that, put it in there. How many people are you? Do you already have a prototype? Where are you in the market right now? Do you have important partners? Put it in there. It's all like about your credentials, right? The more you have on the site, the better for you and your idea. It makes it very credible. And even if you do not have a lot yet, it shows that you're very early in the process, and it shows why you do not have a perfectly planned out financial plan. So just make sure you put it in there, like milestones, a timeline, how far are we into it, what are we planning to do. Once again, it's not like a fixed thing, everyone has to have the same way. Oh, and now my favorite one, the team. And actually our CEO is right behind there in the back. It was one of his main questions in every interview we have with new applicants in our positions is the team slide. Once someone says, oh, the team slide is missing in this deck, that's one of the most crucial questions. Because you do not only sell your idea, of course it's very important, but what you sell is yourself and your team. So don't ever forget that. We get so many slides and so many decks that just leave out the whole team slide, which is so important. Also, if you have advisors on board, it makes it so much more credible. You have people in the back, put them on there. Just make sure you never ever leave out the team slide. And that goes very closely together with the contact on the last slide. Don't ever leave that out either. A lot of people just have a wonderful deck and they send it per email, that's great, but there's no team, no picture, no name, and no address. Even though you would think it's basic and a lot of you already know it, don't ever leave it out. And 11, financials. I think that's very, very important regarding the KPIs. Don't leave them out if you have them, and always make sure you have a backup analysis if you have numbers on here. Because if you have your financial plan worked out with estimates, and that's great, everyone does it, and something looks odd, the investors will know. And if you even get that far, they will ask you exactly why you think this. It's always better to stay on a higher level and then be like, hey, I'm not quite sure how this is gonna work out in like monthly wise, but make sure you don't name anything you can't really like say from your heart. Exactly, we don't wanna like go into too much detail with it, but the main message we really want you to take away is have a guideline, have a structure, make sure you have, like, don't make a rookie mistake and forget any of these. And if you use them, really go into detail, like name what's the problem, name what's the solution, show your product, put your team slide in there, the most important takeaway. Sounds really easy, I know it sounds really stupid and easy, but you won't believe how many people forget about that. And it's always keep in mind, if there's only one thing I want you to take away from today, you don't only sell your idea, you sell yourself. And with that, I think we want to end our presentation. We are very, very happy so many of you were here. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions for us, we're very happy to hear them.
Yeah.
I don't know, do you have a microphone somewhere?
Yeah, we have one.
By the way, this is Florian. Florian actually will have a pitch possibility for all of you. So
See how to turn it on and then handle.
okay.
Test. I know this guy.
Hallo.
Ah, perfect.
Hallo. Kurze Frage, wenn ihr ein Pitch-Deck macht, kriegt man das dann als offenes PSD oder so? Oder?
Genau.
Okay.
Also es ist so, wir arbeiten sehr stark zusammen. Also wir machen jetzt nicht irgendwas und legen es euch dann für die Nase, sondern wir müssen auch mit euch sehr eng zusammenarbeiten. Am Ende bekommt ihr es als PDF und als editierbares File. Das heißt, ihr könnt alles mit der PowerPoint machen, ihr könnt sie auch, es macht auch Sinn, weil ihr entwickelt euch auch weiter, ihr wollt vielleicht Sachen anpassen, ihr wollt Sachen ergänzen.
Klar.
Das heißt, offene PowerPoint.
Okay, cool. Und macht ihr, lassen Leute bei euch auch Sales-Text zum Beispiel machen oder so? Also,
Machen wir auch.
Genau. Eigentlich jede Art von Pitch oder Deck possible.
Pitch ist
Okay.
unser Hauptding, aber wir machen Sales-Präsentationen, Unternehmenspräsentationen, alles in die Richtung geht.
okay, danke.
Gerne auch im Nachgang, kommt zu uns, es ist alles sehr, sehr entspannt hier. Wir freuen uns wirklich über Fragen, über Gespräche, wir hören gerne eure Startups, wir hören eure Ideen gerne, also kommt bitte gerne zu uns, wenn ihr uns irgendwo rumstreuen dann seht. Wir haben auch Visitenkarten.
You mentioned that you already had more than 1,000 different pitches in front of you, and have you actually learned some ideas from these pitches that people supply to you, or do you mainly use your own ideas that you had before?
So you mean like the way people present their pitch decks. Yeah, just give him the microphone back.
Yeah, I mean, if you learn something also from your students, do you
Of course.
sometimes have a feeling, oh, this is a great idea, we should
Every day.
Sure. It's not
Every
just.
day.
We had like 2 days ago, we looked at the deck and we were like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Sometimes we're always learning. It's not that we are always focusing on the structure we presented. We are always flexible. We don't do it like schema F. We do it specialized on, focused on the needs of the customer.
Very, very true. And very important is like we meet a lot of different people in a lot of different industries. I mean, we're not expert on every industry, and that's also not the point of our work, right? And every time I see something, I take it away with me to the next pitch deck. Especially if you start having a couple presentations from the same industry, you learn so much. And you're absolutely right, we take away a lot of things. Of course, we don't take away your ideas because that's confidential, but we take away ideas, yeah.
Talking about pictures and using them in a presentation, would you rather go for the creative solution or the standard solution? What I mean is, for example, if you talk about teamwork, there's always this shaking hands, which is the standard solution, but which might be a bit boring. So what would be your advice on that?
I think it really depends on which kind of company or which kind of startup you're presenting. So I think what goes for one doesn't go for the other one. Imagine you have a financial startup. It's probably good to keep it a little more professional because the investors and the whole people behind it are probably more conservative, professional. But if you have a creative study, imagine you're pitching something like Facebook, Snapchat, you want to make it interactive, creative. So I think at some points it's really good to be creative and to use a lot of pictures and to make it a little bit funny maybe even. But it's really about the kind of company we are working with probably.
I can only agree with Felix. So I think the number one thing that comes to my mind is be authentic. So just really use something that matches you yourself and use something that matches your deck. As we said, if you go into like the banking section, the financial section, it has to be a lot more professional maybe. If you go in a marketing section, because you have a marketing startup, you can be creative. I mean, that's how it goes together. Also, it depends on how you like it and of course how the investors like it. There's no one size fits all, but if you obviously always have pictures that match the content, right? That's important, but I think it's really very, very dependent on the situation. I hope that answered the question.
Okay, my question. You said that one might not have a lot of time with an investor. So what's the minimum amount of pages one would actually need to create?
Wonderful question. You want to start off?
So I would always say it depends on how long you're going to present. If it's just 1 minute, so I would say actually maybe for 1 minute pitch, maybe one slide is even enough. If you have a long pitch, so as you see we have these 12 key points. Mm-hmm. So usually we, as a normal pitch, usually goes for like 10, maybe 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. We try to include these 12 points, and therefore we have usually around 10 to 12 slides, I would say.
Right.
And so now I have the case of someone sending me an email, listen, send me what you got. Mm-hmm. I want to know. What do you do?
In that case, I would probably follow this approach pretty hard because they can look at what they want to look at. If you go into a presentation and you don't really know, like, always have like little slides, less slides, little slides, have big slides but less of them. Make sure you never overload them. You don't want to like flip. What you can do is what we usually do. If there's something important you want to show, put it in the backup. So if the conversation goes that direction, you can be like, oh, I have something here. You can do that. Always keep it down. Also,
you could think about creating more than one pitch deck. You have different proposals. If you send out a pitch deck, you want to contain more information. If you are the one presenting, you want to keep it simple. You don't want to overcrowd it with content. So actually, I think you should maybe at least have 2, maybe even 3 pitches ready to go.
Totally agree.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We have to close the question round here as well now that we give you a warm applause for showing us. Thank you very much.